Hey, all right, everyone, welcome to Heal Thyself. We have another show on the books, and it's going to be an amazing one because I got some really good information for you. Some really powerful information to take control of our health and stuff that you ain't never known. Also, I have an amazing guest, a dear friend of mine, and someone who has some really good knowledge bombs for us, an expert in her field, and I'm really excited to have her on. So without further ado, let's get started. Everyone wants to be young. Everyone wants to feel good, right? The fountain of youth. What is the fountain of youth? Well, what we want to go into is how we can reduce our biological age, which is different than our chronological one, right? I'm a 35-year-old man. What is my body? What is my biology of it? So I want to talk about something called telomeres. It sounds like something you may have never heard or you may have heard all the time. Regardless, within that spectrum, we need to know about what telomeres mean, what they're implicated in, and how we can maximize our telomere health. So if you go on PubMed, which is a huge scientific database, you'll see about 25,000 articles on telomeres, and that's for good reason, right? Because it's connected to aging in all organisms, including humans. So there is a quote by Dr. Masood Shammas. He is out of Harvard Cancer Institute, the Dana-Farber Institute, and he says telomeres shorten with age, and the rate of telomere shortening may indicate the pace of aging, right? So why? How? How do we age biologically? Where does it begin? Now, the belief is that they begin on the length of these telomeres. So it's tied to our cellular aging, as I mentioned. And we're made of these cells, right? We are these cells and bacteria, but we are these cells. So the health of our cells, our cellular health is going to be reflective of our overall health or the health of the organism, right? So really, we have to start thinking about how to maximize our biological health and such these telomeres. So what are they? What are telomeres? I guess the best way that I learned about it, well, first and foremost, they're these caps at the end of our DNA. They protect our DNA, and DNA is life, right? It's encoded information for everything in life, what makes us us. So within that DNA, we have these sort of like shoelace plastic tips. So when you look at your shoelace, you have the plastic tip, and then you could think of the shoelace in itself being the DNA. It protects it, right? And when those plastic tips start eroding and shortening, what happens is that you start getting these frays at the end of the shoelace. It opens up, right? And that's what happens. Well, when it happens in a cell, that cell stops replicating. It just puts it on pause, and then it dies. That cell is done. The life of that cell is done. So we don't even understand the power of what DNA is or what it does for us. We just know a little bit, but we don't know the power of it. And all cells have DNA. It's concentrated in the nucleus and sometimes in the mitochondria, okay? Remember 8th grade biology when you weren't paying attention or you were paying attention, but regardless, this might ring some bells. So as a cell ages, so do our telomeres. Why? Well, what happens is during cellular division, again, I'll bring up mitosis. Remember that word? In biology, what happens is our cells divide. Each successive division shortens up those telomeres, right? The little shoelace plastic tips, well, they get a little bit shorter over time. And as it keeps replicating over the life of the cell, then those those tips become really small, and then they don't work anymore. So when they don't work, like I said, they go on pause and then they die. So what shortens these telomeres? What shortens them? Aside from replication, what increases that rate of speed of these telomeres? Well, the telomere length in humans seems to decrease at a rate of about 24.8 to 27.7 base pairs. That's how they're measured, right? They're base pairs. And age is one of the things, as I mentioned, cellular age as it replicates. But this should be obvious. Smoking is huge. Why? Because these telomeres are very sensitive to something called oxidation. Well, smoking is literally a tidal wave of oxidants in the body, and it happens in a dose-dependent manner because smoking every year adds a loss of 5 base pairs per year added to that normal amount of decrease rate that we see. So that attrition caused by smoking, about 1 pack of cigarettes a day for a period of about 40 years, is equivalent to about 7.4 years of life being reduced just because of those telomeres, or aging because of those telomeres. That's pretty incredible, right? Well, what are some other factors? Obesity. Obesity is huge. That is associated with oxidative stress, right? And that can induce DNA damage. Well, what's cancer? That is DNA damage, oxidative stress over and over and over until it changes the function of the cell. So therefore, what you may see is that there's an expedited shortening of the telomeres because of this oxidative stress, right? So what we also see is telomeres in obese women have been shown to be significantly shorter than those in lean women of the same age group, right? And the excessive loss of telomeres in obese individuals was calculated to be equivalent of 8.8 years of life, which seems to be even worse than smoking. Why do you guys think I talk about movement and exercise so much? Because we don't even understand how deep the implications of being healthy and moving and losing weight and being at a normal weight for yourself, at a healthy weight, what the implications are. So it's pretty incredible. What else? Obviously, poor diet. We know that. I'm going to go into that because diet's huge, but genetically and epigenetically, we have this makeup and what's our environment within that makeup, right? So what do we give in the body? What are our exposures, right? You know I love talking about environmental medicine. What are the exposures? And also things like social and economic status can really shorten your telomeres too. So I just mentioned environmental toxins and I want to say something about it. There was a study done to evaluate telomere length in office workers versus traffic police exposed to pollution. And that pollution being measured as benzene and toluene, which I did a show on for environmental medicine. I think it was about furniture. I spoke about benzene and toluene. But regardless, they found that the telomere length in traffic police was shorter within each age group that they tested it on versus office workers who were not exposed to those toxins, right? So in other words, these toxins associated with pollution exposure over and over have been found to start shortening telomeres and thus your biological age. Also, they did another study on coke oven workers, right? These folks who work with these ovens are exposed to something called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These are called PAHs. I spoke about PAHs very much on the show, especially early on. They were found to have significantly shorter telomeres and increased DNA damage, right? The shortening was correlated to the number of years that these workers were working with these ovens. So I said that to highlight that our environment, not only what we eat or our weight or if we smoke, but our environment, what we're exposed to, things that seemingly are out of our control, but we can negate, have an effect on our overall health. What else? Stress. Whew. Let me just take a breath because stress is a major one, right? Cortisol depletes antioxidants in the body. It's released from the adrenal gland and it starts pressing the delete button on these antioxidants in our body, right? So one study cited by Dr. Sharma explains that women under constant stress were found to have a reduction on telomere length equivalent to 10 years. This is the highest one versus controls, right? We said smoking. Now we said smoking, then we said obesity, and now we're talking about stress. Stress being the highest one on our telomeres, the highest effect on our telomeres. 10-year change in biological age just from persistent stress on telomeres. That is incredible. Telomere length can be affected by various lifestyle factors, and they may determine overall health, lifespan, and the rate of which an individual is aging. Stress will age you more than anything. Look at the presidents, right? They go in pitch black hair and then they have white hair, right? That is persistent cortisol stress. And I would love, imagine we did a telomere test where we measured the telomeres of a president pre-presidency or going into the office. And then when they were done and, signing their goodbye papers, after that, testing their telomeres and seeing what that'd be like. It'd be pretty incredible to see. So anyway, I just recently did a story on biological age and chronological age, and I put how old is your body versus how old is your timeline age from when you were born, because it could be a big difference, right? So some disease associated with shorter telomeres, we got to go into this. So shorter telomeres are associated with increase in diseases, right? Diseases, especially as you age. So there was a study by Oeseburg and their research team out of the Netherlands, and they reported that shorter telomere length is a risk factor for cancer, right? And that makes sense, right? Because telomeres are really sensitive to oxidants in the body. And as I mentioned, oxidants are what damage DNA, and then DNA start replicate, or the cells start replicating differently because it's DNA damage. And then what we see is cancer cells at some point for some people. All right. So clinical data revealed that telomere length, all right, is shorter in subjects with different types of cancer, including cancer of the head, the neck, the breast, the bladder, the prostate, the lung, and the kidney. It is associated with shorter telomere length. Shorter telomere length has also been associated with diabetes, even subclinical insulin resistance. Before we even see that as frank diabetes, we start seeing that already, shorter telomere length being associated with that. And it can play a role in hypertension, we believe, too. We've seen it associated with the formation of coronary artery plaque, which is incredible, right? The group that I just mentioned cites a 2001 study which established that folks with coronary artery disease had significantly shorter telomeres than the control group. All right, telomere difference reflects almost 9 years in these folks. For the ones who were in the control group versus the intervention group who had coronary arteries, their telomere difference was about 9 years, right? So think about these folks. Were they exposed to a crappy diet? Most likely, because most heart disease has to do with your intake of standard American diet and high intake of meat throughout your life. But also, what about their stress levels, right? What about environmental toxins, as I mentioned? Remember all these things that I just mentioned before? Causing an insult to the telomeres. So they go on to say that it's been estimated that telomere length is reduced by as much as 25% in failing hearts compared to non-failing hearts. Longer the telomere, the more efficient the blood is being pumped into the body. Additionally, the individuals whose telomeres that were seen to be shorter and than the corresponding average telomere, they had a threefold higher risk to develop a myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack, which is pretty incredible data that we're starting to see. So how do we sustain telomere length? This is what you're all asking. We have to know, right? What interventions can we make to our telomeres to increase their length and increase our biological age versus chronological age? So how do we keep our cells young? Well, when we were, we want to be at 60 years old, but our biological age is 50, 45, 40, right? So the number one intervention, of course, is if you smoke, you got to get off of it, got to get off cigarettes. Aside from everything else that we know it does, at the very least, if you heard this telomere talk and know that cigarettes are a major cause of telomere shortening, get off the cigarettes, do what you can, find the people to help you get off. So food, what are we eating? That has such a significant impact on our health, right? Telomere length is positively associated with, Dr. Gonzalez always talks about this, fiber. Fiber, fiber, fiber. I'll say that again. Telomere length is positively associated with fiber. You got to increase your plant-based fiber. You got to increase your variety of plant-based foods that you're eating. What about exercise? Well, you got to reduce your waist circumference because that's been associated with telomere length, right? Reduction, this is going to be surprising to some of you, but reduction in protein intake of food also seems to increase longevity. Reduction in protein content of food by 40% has led to a 15% increase in the lifespan of rats in these tests that we're seeing, especially early in life. And Walter Longo, who is a leading authority on longevity, speaks about this. A low protein diet being one of the major proponents or major interventions to make for long-term longevity, long life, and health. Okay, so Dr. Shamas, as I mentioned earlier, his study, he had said a really interesting quote that I want to repeat, and this was on the rats. So they said, consistently, the highest life expectancy is associated with low protein and a higher carbohydrate diet, which is evolutionarily where we were, what we evolved with, lower protein, higher carbs. The source of protein also seems to be an important factor as replacing casein, which comes from milk, with soy protein and rats in this intervention. And it's associated with the low incidence of chronic kidney issues and increased lifespan. In other words, when you eat closer to what we evolved with, we certainly didn't evolve eating meat all the time or animal products all the time. We evolved with everything, all things plant-based, right? So our body knows how to handle it. You look at our teeth, they're not made for meat anyway. And that's a whole nother podcast. But anthropologically, none of that is true. But I want to say this. We evolve with a higher carbohydrate, lower protein diet. And that, as I just said, is reflected on what we see in studies when it comes to and relative to lifespan, right? So we see you live longer, the lower amount of protein you eat. But what else? What other things are associated? Let's go into it. We see that antioxidants, right? I just spoke about the power of what oxidants do to telomeres. So antioxidants, which negate that, like vitamin E, vitamin C, beta carotene, that's associated with longer telomeres, lower risk of breast cancer. Dietary antioxidants equals shorter telomeres equals a moderate risk for breast cancer, right? So you can't lack antioxidants, right? Because you're going to become you're going to be at moderate risk for breast cancer. Antioxidants are huge. Every single day you need to be eating antioxidants, right? And these are the high oxygen radical absorbency capacity, or ORAC score foods, right? You don't know what antioxidant rich foods are out there? Type in ORAC score, high ORAC score foods. You'll start seeing that majority of them are plants, almost exclusively. So look up foods, find it out, and then you'll start seeing that antioxidants are almost, like I said, exclusively in plants and very, very little to none in meat. Really, you're just going to find omega-3s in fish, but the rest of it is not going to really have too much. What's another major one that I love? Green tea. Green tea is so dense in antioxidants. You got to be drinking it every day. Listen to the show that I did on green tea, because that's going to be really helpful for you to make a decision on which one to get. How about fasting? How about dietary restriction? You better believe that helps your telomeres. Actually, as Walter Longo says, dietary restriction or eating less is having a positive impact on health and longevity. In animal studies, we see that it actually increases lifespan by 66%. The less they ate or the more dietary restriction they have. And I had a whole show on fasting for this reason. Eating is more of a stress on our body than fasting, which is pretty incredible. I'll say that again. Eating is more of a stress on our body than fasting. We have evolved to not eat, right? More so than we have to feast. So also there's delays on age-related diseases, the more we fast or reduce or with calorie restriction, and a reduction in oxidative stress. Duration of exercise is inversely correlated with the biomarkers of DNA damage. The more you exercise, the less biomarkers you're having on your DNA being damaged and on telomeres, right? The less you exercise, the more your telomeres are shortening. The more you exercise, the more they're sustaining, right? That's beautiful. So there was a summary in this study that I mentioned with Dr. Shamas, and they said exercise can reduce harmful fat, help mobilize waste, products for faster elimination, leading to reduced oxidative damage and preservation of DNA and telomeres, right? What it does is it activates telomerase, which is the enzyme that actually protects and lengthens telomeres. And they've seen it actually in athletes. When they check their telomeres versus non-athletes, they have much higher levels, a better sustained or longer telomeres on the average in the population. As I mentioned, reducing environmental toxins, which is my whole show. If you don't know how to do that, check out literally almost every episode I do. Reducing stress, so important. I just did a whole thing on meditation. Check that one out. So there was a study by Dr. Blackburn and Dr. Dean Ornish. I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Ornish about a week ago, and they did a study that included 30 men. And it was on low-risk prostate cancer. And those who improved their diet, exercised moderately, reduced stress at the end of a 5-year study, had 29% higher levels of telomerase, which I mentioned, that enzyme that helps strengthen and lengthen our telomeres, than when they began. That's incredible. Just by those interventions, I'm talking basic stuff that y'all can do. Basic stuff, okay? And supplement-wise, there was really only one supplement that was studied on a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial, and that was on something called TA65. But ask your doctor before that. I'm not recommending anything. I just want to bring it to you all. And it's a molecule that comes from the root of the astragalus plant. And it actually increased 180 base pairs over the year versus placebo, which lost about 100 base pairs. So it actually helps stabilize and also increase telomere length. So pretty intriguing stuff. Ask your doctor about it or research it yourself. I'm not recommending anything. I'm just bringing it to light. So there you go. If you ask how old you are, that doesn't mean anything. That's just how long you've been on Earth. But really, what means everything is our biological age. We want to stay young and vibrant and healthy, and it seems that telomeres are the number one indicator of that. And we have so much control over the length of our telomeres. So I hope this was intriguing. I hope you really learned something. And I cannot wait to get to our special guest. Let's get on her right now. Let's get on all the information and let's learn something. All right, everyone. Today's special guest, Dr. Saman Faramarzi. She's incredible, a good friend of mine, gut health specialist, mind-body extraordinaire. We are going deep. We are diving deep into the human psyche / our microbiome. Why not? What a great combination. Hi, Dr. Sam.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here. Look, this has been, 3 months in the making? I've been asking you to come here. You're the busiest person I know.
I'm just hard to get.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
You're hard to get on here, right? So, wow, you're flying everywhere every other weekend.
Yeah.
And that's for work with a company you do. Are you now educating people about gut health all around the world?
Yeah, I've been lucky to work with Microbiome Labs. Amazing company. I've been telling you all about them, right? I've
Not
been trying
sponsored
to
by
get you
them.
to, I know you're not sponsored by them, but I've been trying to get you to try them because I'm obsessed with their products. I mean, they're one of the companies that spends a lot of time doing lots and lots of human research, which no one else is really doing it when they're producing products, right? They're like, oh, take this probiotics, do that. But they're doing lots of research on the human microbiome, and they're on the cutting edge of
They
all.
are.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now? You're just going around the country and telling people about what gut health is, how it works,
Yeah.
certain conditions, and how they can improve.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So I'm educating different physicians. So I work with a lot of I'm a naturopathic doctor myself, right? So I have the privilege of going around to all these different naturopathic conferences and sharing the most cutting edge research that Microbiome Labs is doing and talking about their products. I mean, I rarely talk about the products. I'm just educating, but then people are like, "What are you talking about? What is
Yeah.
this? Where can we get this?" Everyone's really interested because we all want to help our patients, right? And as naturopathic doctors, as you know, we always start in the gut because
start in
that's
the
where
gut.
it all starts. So.
Yeah. So even if the folks who are listening or watching, if you don't make it to a naturopathic doctor or functional doctor, really start with researching how to improve and maximize your gut health,
Yeah.
because that'll translate to most of the time overall health.
Yes.
And I can attest to that. When my gut is off, I am not excitable, loud, bubbly.
Yeah.
It's just I'm dull.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen a lot of that mind-body connection with the gut, right?
Totally. They're finding out research on the gut-brain connection and how serotonin, 90% of serotonin is made in the gut. So imagine, I mean, I see a lot of patients with anxiety, depression, and they're being put on medication just to increase their serotonin. But why not look at the gut and fix the root cause of the problem to help your body make its own serotonin, right?
Right.
So then once we get them on the right probiotics, on the right diet, other products that we can get them on, then they see this huge, huge shift. And then personalities change, right?
Yeah. They feel, I'm telling you, I know it. Like if I wake up and no bloating, no heartburn, I'm feeling good,
Yeah.
then I'm just like fire blazing through the day.
Yeah.
And I feel good and I'm happy and I laugh and do a morning ritual dance or something like that. Put on a little salsa music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I've seen you do those dances
You have
when you're
those,
happy.
yeah. I do have
I've
that
seen
happy
you
dance,
your-
and at the best and the worst.
I've seen your worst.
Yeah. So for those who, Dr. Sam was, she was there when I was going through the whole mold thing.
Yeah.
And do you see a difference in healing of the body when you heal the personality?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You would tell me a lot about everything you were experiencing in your mood when you were going through the mold situation. I see a huge shift in you, which I'm
Yeah.
so happy you got a hold of it and
Yeah.
we got you moved out of your
Yeah,
apartment.
that apartment was bad.
That was bad. Yeah.
But that should just drive people to understand that the body has an innate, beautiful ability to heal itself.
Yes.
Right? So long as we give it the conditions.
Exactly.
One of the main conditions was getting out of that apartment, which was continuously exposing and re-exposing me.
Yeah.
You got to remove that obstacle to cure. So for in gut health, what are some obstacles to cure? Stress, like poor diet? Do you find what is really causing a firestorm in the gut?
So one thing I always talk about is dysbiosis and leaky gut, right? Everything starts from dysbiosis. And for the listeners or people who are watching this, dysbiosis is just an imbalance in your gut bacteria. This starts from the time you're in the womb. So when our moms are pregnant with us in the womb, it depends on what they're eating. Are they being exposed to antibiotics? And then when you're giving birth, you get exposed to the right bacteria if you're giving birth vaginally. They measure all this bacteria on your skin, they measure it in your mouth, and they see that right then, that's when we're being inoculated with all the right stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then, so the mom really sets the tone for our gut health. And then up to age 3 or 4, that's when everything gets set into place, your whole microbiome. And then we get exposed to bacteria, we get exposed to antibiotics, we get exposed to poor diet, environmental toxins. All these things play a huge role in how we manage our microbiome. And then you have to work on rebuilding it. So the whole thing comes from what's our kind of clean slate, right? Like what are we starting with? What do we have to work with? And I always work on rebalancing the microbiome, whether it's through diet or giving the right probiotics but diet is huge. Plant-based diets, or they're doing so much research on that. I mean, I know you're on a plant-based diet, and how saturated fat makes this thing called LPS, which causes leaky gut. I mean, this research is so fascinating. We could talk about this for 5 hours.
Yeah.
I don't want to bore you, but
No, I'm not bored, nor the listeners. But
Yeah.
I think it's pretty incredible to understand that we evolved with these very specific bacteria in our gut, and they evolved with very specific foods that we gave evolutionarily, and that being the fiber. So, man, I'll say it at the top of a mountain, and re-emphasize it always, is the importance of fiber in our diet to build that microbiome, right? Because what do? They eat up this fiber,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
they just
they
start
do.
creating some goodies for us, some good synthesizing some vitamins, right? Reducing inflammation, helping them grow.
Exactly. And also, it's not just fiber, it's diversity in your diet too. So
yeah.
you can't just be eating carrots all day long thinking
Carrot
it's
fiber.
yeah, like, oh, this is enough fiber.
Yeah.
It's great, you're going to poop a lot, but also you need diversity in the food you're eating because you get different bacteria, and it feeds the different bacteria that you already have. And what I always talk about, my favorite product, Megaspore, right? I'm always preaching about Megaspore.
Yeah, well, like, it's not even you're selling it. You believe in it
I
so
bel-
deeply.
Yeah.
I kid you not, people, that she'll talk about it off air.
Yeah.
Nonstop. But, and I'm guilty of not ever trying it. I think we need to do like a little
gonna do a
intervention
trial
on
on
me.
you.
Do a trial on me.
Yes.
Pre and post. We'll do all of the symptoms and
I
everything.
will personally order you
A poop
bottle
test.
and a poop test.
Maybe I'll do a poop test before and after.
Let's do it.
I think
Let's
that's a good
do it.
idea.
I think it's a great
But
idea.
anyway, you love it because
I don't know what I was going to say about Megaspore.
just
Let me
how for
think.
diversity. We were talking about diversity.
Yes. There's the 5 key strains that get into your gut and they create diversity. They feed the good bacteria. They help kill off the bad bacteria. The key strains of those spores are used in Europe as antibiotics, but antibiotics that don't harm the good bacteria. They are incredible. So that's what I usually use with my patients. And the cool thing is, we were talking about how obsessed I am with Microbiome Labs. I used their products before I even got hired on to be a speaker for them, which was so fun. I mean,
too
I
cool.
was starstruck when I met
So-
the microbiologist.
Yes. So let's go back. What's the difference between like just CVS probiotics versus like a spore-biotic?
Yeah.
Why? Where's the incentive to spend more money or ask your physician or practitioner that you want this spore probiotic?
Yeah, so there's a lot of myths out there about probiotics, right? Get the one that's refrigerated because it's not alive if it's not refrigerated, right? Or all these things that we're hearing that are on the, on all these articles and different things that food bloggers or different people are writing about, or things that I even learned in school, which is crazy because it's like, we learned this stuff, but they're all myths, right? So what happens with spore-based probiotics is they have a protective natural shell around them. So they survive up to 450 degrees of heat. So when you're ingesting them, they arrive into your intestines alive. Others
Bypass the stomach, no problem. Then?
Exactly. They
Okay.
survive stomach acid. You can take them with antibiotics. They survive, and they've done studies on these, right? Other probiotics, like just lactobacillus or different things that aren't spore-based probiotics, they don't survive. Maybe 1 or 2% survives. Now, they're still doing something because you might, the listeners are probably like, well, I've taken regular probiotics and I've seen a shift. I'm pooping better. I feel better. They're still doing something, but only while you're taking them. With these spore-based probiotics, they actually survive in your gut and they're shifting. They're creating diversity. They're changing your microbiome. So they're
Yeah.
actually helping heal your gut and leaky gut. They've done human studies where in 30 days it reduces leaky gut by measuring LPS, which is the lipopolysaccharide I was telling you about, reduces it by 46%. That's insane, 30 days.
Yeah,
And not
30 days.
changing diet, which as naturopaths, we always work on diet, right?
sure.
Just taking the spore-based probiotics and eating a garbage diet, that's the change you get.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I've seen it, like people take over-the-counter probiotics in the refrigerator, not spore, and then do well and then stop and then not do well.
Yeah.
And we had a guest pass through here and she spoke about like just those probiotics sort of being like travelers. They just come, they have an effect while they're there, but they're not going to really repopulate.
Exactly.
That's
And
pretty
our
incredible.
Goal, and our goal is to heal the gut. We don't want to because that would just be another pill you're taking, right? Just to like set off the symptoms and help with the symptoms. You want to heal the gut.
Pill for the ill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pill for the ill. I like
pill for the
that.
ill. Yeah. Someone said that. I don't know where I heard it. But okay, let's shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
We love all things mindset and mind, body. Like, I think it's incredible that practitioners don't even address the connection between your mind state or your mindset and the effect that it has on your body, whether it be pain, digestive issues, headaches, something. Are you passionate about this like I am?
Am I?
Yeah.
Do we ever stop talking about this?
Yeah.
When we're hanging out?
Yeah. It's true. It's so important. So tell me, what things have you found to be detrimental to our physical health from the perspective of the mind?
I think, well, there's a huge, I'm super passionate about the mind-body connection, and I've spent some time learning NLP and meditation and all those things. I think finding joy in everyday life really affects your overall health. So for me, it's not like, oh, this is the one thing that changes your physical well-being, but it's how can you go about your day living in joy, and how do you choose to look at life? I have had patients with chronic illnesses. Like I've had a patient with ALS who, when he first came in, had such a hard time looking at his illness, right? And then over time, and he's still doing amazing, by the way, where they're like, oh, we don't even think you got diagnosed with this. He was like, I have never been happier in my life. And this is someone who could have been like, oh, I'm just giving up. And it's the lens he's looking at life through, right? So I think that's the most important thing. That's something I'm working on with myself, and I've dedicated so much time for my own life because that's what I find joy in, right? I'm like, how do I experience life through a love lens? How do I get to find joy, even in the small things, even in the middle of chaos? And I think that affects healing. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you certainly did. But I have a question follow up to that. Then how does one find joy when their boss is a dick and their partner is a psycho? You see what I mean? And then you have all these things, quote unquote, going wrong.
Yeah.
Where do you find joy in that?
Well, are they going wrong? Who said they're going wrong, right? Let's say your boss is a dick, right? How do you get to look at that? Like, for example, if someone's being a dick to me, I kind of look at it as, what am I supposed to learn from this, right? I mean, if I was in a terrible psychotic relationship, well, first of all, I would leave, right? But if I was in a relationship where it's a little challenging, right? And you're like, oh, this person keeps triggering this in me and triggering every day, then I would look at it and be like, what do I need to learn from this? I mean, of course, unless it's abuse or like something where you have to exit the relationship. So for me, it's kind of like, this has showed up in my life on purpose. And how do I get to learn from it? How do I get to evolve with it? What is it showing about me? It's kind of like that mirror that's put in front of you. And what do I get to do with it? Because we are so powerful. As human beings, we don't even understand how powerful we are. But we get to choose how we want our lives to be.
Yeah, every morning.
Every single morning, you know? I know you do the intentions in the morning. You say them out loud. I've heard you talk about this, right? You say it in the shower out loud?
Yeah.
You do your
Everything.
Instagram stories on this?
Yeah, like literally the phone in the shower? No. That's the next one, huh?
You should do that.
No.
It'll go
no
back.
shower.
It'll break the internet.
It'll break the internet for sure. I've been working out. I'll tell you that much. So, yeah, I think that's the most important time of the day.
Yes.
Right? I did
Yeah.
actually 2 shows ago, I believe 2 shows ago, there was a whole thing about rituals in the morning and how to do it, and how to create a habit in 66 days with those rituals. So it's really important. Yeah. So
Why 66 days?
Because that's when we scientifically find that is where habits are formed, when you're doing it for 66 days.
It used to be 21 days, no?
Yeah, no, it's 66 is like, it's a little harder, but actually I have on my whiteboard blank days of meditation.
Yeah.
So, because I haven't been consistent for quite a while. So now it's on 6 straight days of meditation. On the second day, I found already just a different shift in my personality.
Yeah.
For some reason, and you know how meditation works, but I like being like really loud and neurotic. But then I found that it's not really my state. So I've become a lot more peaceful, literally on the second, third day. So does meditation help folks have a better perspective to look through a love-colored lens?
Totally. I think with meditation, what's challenging is that you think you have to sit quietly. People that haven't meditated forever, right? They get really uncomfortable because thoughts come up And we all need to realize that thoughts come up for a reason, and we get to witness them and we let them go, right? So it's not like you do meditation, all of a sudden for you it happens because you've been doing it for a while, even though
Yeah,
you're
but
on
not
and off,
lately.
right?
Not this morning. I had a million thoughts, and I'm like, I used to be able to lay down and turn it off.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. So that's the thing. It's like thoughts come up, we witness them, and we let them go, and we get to learn through them. I mean, sometimes I sit in meditation. There are days where I'm in a hurry and I'm like, I just have to do a quick 15-minute meditation and get out, right? And then there are times where I have unlimited time where I'm like, I don't want to get out of this because I'll be in this space where I get to see so much and learn so much about myself. But I think until you get to that place where you learn that life is really about learning more and witnessing who you are and how you want to evolve and how you want to experience life, then everything will shift. You know, I'll spend time with friends where they're in a place where what I'm saying isn't even like, they can't even acknowledge that that could be a reality for them. And they're like, what planet are you living
Well, yeah,
on?
what crazy talk is this?
Yeah, they're like, you are crazy.
Yeah, but it's really hard to, and it's actually folks who are really within their own power, aligned, and spreading real love, right? They're in love with themselves and they're spreading it
Yeah.
to others. Those folks are like, well, that person's a little bit weird. Why are they so open and
Yeah.
why are they vibrating so high? But amongst all of that judgment is a layer of like, I want what that person has.
Yes.
Right? I want to
Yeah.
be that. And it's not that they want it, it's just a reminder of what they are, who they are.
It's already in you, right?
It's already in you.
All of us.
It's a mirror, right? You're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, she's so beautiful in her radiant energy. Well, damn, I'm pretty beautiful in my radiant energy.
Exactly.
So do you find yourself setting an example that way? Like radiating and reminding people? And sometimes they don't want to listen, like your friends, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, on my good days, I'm patient and, you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to lead by example. And then there are times where I'm like, okay, I've had enough. Bye. Like I get, you know, it gets frustrating and you're like, I just wish I could snap a button and be like, hey, I want you to experience this joy. I want you to take responsibility for your feelings, for your mood.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes people are like, like everything's so terrible. The traffic was this, and oh my God, my boss said this to me, and everyone at work sucks. And you're like, fuck, when is this list gonna end? Of
Yeah.
like all this garbage.
Yeah.
And I go through that too, though. You know what I mean? And it reminds me of like, I've been there. I still go into that place, but then I kind of laugh at myself when I catch myself in that space of listing all these negative things I'm experiencing. I'm like, ha ha ha, like, can you be a witness to this? Can you shift? And I shift like this.
And to be an observer is one of the most powerful steps, right? Because majority of life we're on autopilot and then we are going, oh God, I'm just so reactive to everything, never going, let me take a step back. Why? And is this serving me? And what am I being reactive to?
Yeah.
And as you said, being an observer is the key. That's a first step.
Yeah.
You can't make a change if you're in it. Like if you're in a tornado, you ain't gonna see the color of the tornado, the speed of it, the velocity of it. Like when you're out of it, then you look at the tornado and you go, well, damn, I was in that tornado. How can I create change in that?
Yeah.
So really, what things aside from meditation have helped you to learn about? Like there's gonna be listeners and readers going, all right, well, that's all nice and good. I know I heard about meditation. I could try that. But what else can they do?
I think one of the first steps that every single patient, if you've been a patient of mine or you know me, gratitude journals, right? So I always start my morning and end my day with listing out things I'm grateful for, because you can find 3 things you're grateful for even when you're in the middle of tragedy, right? And that shifts your brain. It changes your brain chemistry. And then going from brain chemistry to gut health, right? If you have diarrhea, it'll stop it.
Yeah, bring back to gut health, all right?
Exactly. So that is one of the easiest things, like the simplest things you can do for yourself that will change your life. And you'll see it over time. The first few weeks might be a little awkward if you're not used to it. You're going to be like, oh, I'm grateful for my bed, like, you know, the little things. And then you're like, you won't be able to go to bed without writing the things you're grateful for. Or sometimes you won't even write it. You'll be like screaming it out loud, right? I think that's the simplest way to start that will shift your life dramatically.
Yeah, 2 months and a week. That's all we need of that.
Yeah.
3.
Oh, yeah, 66 days.
66 days. Yeah. So how long does it take to write 3 things in the morning, 3 things at night?
I mean, like 30 seconds.
Okay,
right?
that's literally like scrolling through Instagram, you know, for
Exactly.
30 seconds. That's
Exactly.
reading a post, you know? So can we all find that time to set a new habit that can literally change our lives?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I've realized too is commitment, right? I think making a commitment to ourselves and choosing ourselves, that shifts your chemistry too. I've realized that sometimes, so I'm a very, like, you know me, I'm free spirited. I'm like, oh, I just like to go with the flow. But I've realized the one thing that's changed my life and my confidence level is committing to myself. And still going with the flow and, respecting that side of my personality, but committing to things that make me better have changed who I am. So making a commitment to writing in that gratitude journal will be life changing,
Yeah.
right? It will, and you won't even know it. It's like a subconscious thing that you have more self respect, and you're like, wow, I can do this, and I'm doing this for me.
Me
And
time.
It takes 30 seconds.
Me time. That's what I've been saying that for years already. Me
Yeah.
time. That's commitment. That me time shifts your brain chemistry because you're not going from without. You get yourself set up and aligned from within, and then your human experience and the way you interact with others is coming from that place.
Exactly.
Right? Like you understand that you're driving the car, and you're not like in the passenger seat thinking that someone else is driving it. It's all you. And
Yeah.
as you said, you can really what you did was set boundaries for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you committed to your own self-work and self-love, right?
Exactly.
And how does it feel to do that?
Incredible. Honestly, I'm the happiest I've ever been right now. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
But that's because I've put in the work. The past 9 months have been life-changing for me. A lot of roller coasters, but
Yeah.
it's been, now I can say today that I'm the happiest I've ever been. And it's all because of the work I've done for myself, right? It's about committing to myself, to my career. But that's the thing. It's like once I did that, everything shifted. I showed up for my patients a little differently. I think the one thing I do in the morning is like, hey, you got to be so present with your patients every single morning, and I pray that the right things come through me so I can be present with my patients. But that's not even, it's more committing to others. So now it's like, hey, I'm doing the work for myself, and I show up with that energy, and my patients end up wanting to do the same. It's kind of like they're reflecting off of that confidence and that energy.
Yeah. It's because your vibration changes.
Yeah.
Right? People feel it. They feel
Yeah.
different. Don't you? When you're really in tune with, like, let's say a family member, sometimes I could walk in the house and not say anything and you already know.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
you're so in tune with their vibration or their partner or your partner. But we all have that subtle antenna, right?
Yeah.
Like our hairs go up because we feel something's going on. And that sensation is a huge compass for us to know how we feel about people, right?
Yeah.
So at least for me, and this might be for you, like if I'm meeting someone new, friend, family, lover, business partner, I feel first. Like, what is my sensation the first 10 seconds? Then what is my sensation after a meeting or meeting them? If I don't feel good, right? Something, especially for me, it manifests in my stomach.
Yeah.
That's where like my intuition is. Like I'll tighten up. If something is off, then you question that.
Totally.
Do you do something like that, the same practice?
Yeah, no, I go, everything's based off of vibes and energy for me. It's like, because we're the more work you do, the more sensitive you become. Or even if you're not doing the work, some people are more sensitive to energy, and we're all connected. We're all one, right? So when something feels off, it affects you. And sometimes you just have to stay away.
Yeah, and it affects our physical health, which is the
Oh,
craziest thing, right? Like and it's not the same for everyone, right? I know that if I am not setting boundaries for myself, doing me time, doing rituals, and letting life outside of me dictate me, my stomach is a mess.
Oh, totally.
My stomach, I'm bloated, I'm burping, like
Interesting.
I ain't right. I promise you, but it just shifts. You feel lighter. It's sort of like I have bricks in my stomach when that's life.
Yeah.
And then when I really dedicate myself, it's like I have butterflies and feathers in my stomach with a
Yeah.
little bit of daffodils flying around.
I love that.
Yeah, but that's me stomach. But then like listeners, viewers, why don't we think about how are we affected? Like, let's set that mind-body connection.
Totally.
Right?
I do this with patients where I ask them, so they come in and they're like, I do a lot of mind-body work, right? So I ask them that question, where do you feel this? How, like, for example, if someone's like, hey, I have a lot of anxiety. Like, first
Where
of
do
all,
you feel it?
Yeah. I'm like, where do you feel it? How do you know it's anxiety? Right? We use these terms and you explain it. You're like, it feels like bricks in my gut, this and that. I feel bloated.
Yeah.
And then I feel different. It's gone when I'm taking care of it, right? So it's really cool. I think it's so important for the listeners to pay attention to that. Some people hold it in their shoulder, so then they have chronic headaches, chronic pain, all of that.
It's really hard to address that for folks because most of us don't even pay attention. Right? We think, oh God, I just ate that salad and my stomach hurts. Well, maybe that's true. Maybe you're reacting to the red peppers and that's not good for you, for your constitution or your body. Or maybe you're going through some stuff right before your lunch break. Maybe your boss just laid it on you. Maybe you've had a ton of anxiety. And maybe you're rushing to lunch because you got to get back to work. You see what I mean? Like we don't think like that. We don't think that our mind first and how that's affecting, because maybe if you meditated for an hour, ate the same lunch, we're grateful, breathing, eating it slow, that might be a different outcome, correct?
100%. I completely agree. Because your physiology changes too with all that stress, right? Are you producing the right enzymes?
Right.
Are you, because it's all connected.
Stomach acid's changing.
Exactly.
Cortisol's up. Your body, when your cortisol's up, your body doesn't care about digesting food.
It wants to run away from the
run
bear,
away from the bear, from the lion.
boss.
From the scary boss, exactly. So I think it's so important to make these points for everyone viewing and listening, is because why don't we just pay closer attention to where in the body this, when you get into a fight with your lover, where in the body, where were you before, where are you now, where in the body?
Are you even in your body? You know what I learned? So I'm a big proponent of therapy, right? So going through therapy myself to learn more about myself, heal some wounds, because, growing up, we all deal with trauma. And I learned that even up until 9 months ago, I was so dissociated with my own body. Like I preach all this breathing stuff and like talking to my patients about it. And I learned, I was like, wow. She was like, where do you feel it in your body? When she started asking me the questions I asked people, I was like, what? What do you mean? Like I was out of my body. I was dissociating because it was too painful to be in my body and actually experience the pain, and deal with the healing of, my dad passed away when I was younger. So it's like, when you're 7 and you lose a parent, you don't realize what that loss is, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want to deal with it. I mean, people are different, but for me, I didn't process it until a year ago. And
Isn't
when
that crazy?
Isn't that
All our
insane?
lives, we hold it in.
Yeah. So that's when I learned, wow, I'm not living in my body. I am just trying to escape this trauma so I don't face it. So I had to face it. And I think that really is the reason I am where I am today, is because I actually went and did the work, the therapy, got in my body, faced everything. And
And when we're young, it's hard to process what the magnitude of something means.
Yeah.
But as we grow older, and that, let's say, for example, your dad not being there, or the death of my mom, when in situations where I'm like, oh, it would have been nice to have her around for this. That builds and builds and builds. Yeah. So, geez, I mean, all our lives, and just last year, you finally, and what did that look like when you released, or how have you improved? How's your life improved?
Well, it was a few months of crying every day.
I remember that.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
I was like, ah!
You're like, I cried for 8 hours today. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was like, I'm working, and like you kind of shut it off to deal with, to work and see your patients, and you have responsibilities. Yeah. But then on my off time, I really went inward and spent a lot of alone time, or with friends like you who I trust and could talk to, right? So it was months of that. And then finally, I was like, wow, I'm free. Like I let go of all this baggage I've been holding on to. I'm going to get emotional right now.
Yeah.
But it's so freeing.
It's powerful, right?
So
and
powerful.
It's like when you release that book bag, it's pretty incredible, because you feel some sort of liberation, right? But some of us don't even know we're carrying a book bag, because our body's so amazing at adapting.
Exactly.
Right? We forgot what it was like to breathe. We forgot what it was like to have fruitful relationships. We forgot what it was like to feel good and be like, man, like this day is easy.
Yeah.
Because our body's just continuously adapting to all of this stress that we hold in.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love emotional release stuff.
Me too.
Because, I work in cancer, and I have a little pie that I draw with patients. And a big piece of that pie is emotional traumas, big traumas, little traumas all throughout life. And there's people whose body has memory. Everyone, our body has memory of all situations we ever had, ever in our history, every word we've ever had, every experience we've ever had. And it's filed into a database. But all those traumas are still filed too. And that causes the dysfunction in our body.
Exactly. And it shows up differently for all of us,
Yeah.
right? For some people, it becomes a chronic illness.
Yeah.
For some people, it becomes dysfunctional relationships,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
And getting triggered all the time. So this is where like
Yeah.
my passion is. I think this is where your passion
yeah.
is too. It's so fascinating.
Because it's square one.
Yes.
It's where we go first. Like, I believe all practitioners should first address emotional body, the mind body, the mindset, traumas. And then, right? I could give you the best supplements in the world, the best diet for your body. But I promise you, you ain't going to be 100% until that's addressed, correct?
Exactly. That's what I tell everyone.
Amen
right?
to that.
It's high five.
You testified on that one. What sort of stuff are you doing now? Like, I know you do some concierge. You do a lot of IVs actually, which is pretty incredible because I never really got into that. But do you see folks get better from IV therapy now?
Yeah. So the reason I got into IV therapy is, I start with healing the gut. And if your gut isn't functioning well, even if you start by eating the right diet, taking the right supplements, healing your mind body stuff, you're not absorbing the right nutrients for a while, right? It takes about, what I've seen with my patients, about 3 months to really rebuild your gut. So the part of me that likes that quick fix, which you don't get really with naturopathic medicine, was like IVs. With IVs, you get all the nutrients that I'm putting in the bag in your vein right away. So then you see results sometimes halfway through the IV. My patients are like, wow, I feel so relaxed because of the magnesium in here. Or the next day, they're like, I've never felt so energized, blah, 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 blah. So that's why I love IV therapy. It's because you get an instant relief from whatever's going on if you're fatigued. It's not the answer to everything, but the first month of being my patient, the first month I'm giving regular IVs because we're healing the gut and I want you to feel better pretty quickly. So I make house calls with that. People love the convenience of it. I love it. We get to
They
hang
love
out.
that. Yeah, I always see you walking in with a bag into different homes, but I think it's pretty incredible that folks, they can get this dose and folks will feel better pretty fast, right? And it's incredible how dehydrated we are.
Yes.
Or how deficient we are in just all different types of vitamins and minerals. So then this like changes our life, right? When they go, oh my God, my body is finally working the way it should, right?
Exactly. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference. That's why I love it.
Do you do vitamin C
Yeah.
for folks, especially with cancer?
So I usually refer my cancer patients to you, as you
Oh,
know.
is that right? Yeah, they forgot to say your name.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah, no, I know.
I know you
I'm
guys
just
don't
kidding.
do IVs, but I don't do high dose vitamin C at home. A lot of times I help cancer patients after they're done with their treatment. Unless their oncologist is on board, then we do it. It's a little bit more complicated.
It is tricky, and you have to run some tests to make sure that they can even get the IV vitamin C.
Exactly.
But I've seen it help. I wouldn't say there's people out there that say this is a cure for cancer. It's certainly, in my estimation, not. But I've seen people going through chemo radiation who have done exponentially better every single day with their energy, with their appetite, with their overall quality of life when they get persistent high-dose vitamin C.
Totally. Yeah.
So I think there's a huge place for it in cancer care.
Yeah.
And people should seek that out. Just make sure your doctor is testing for G6PD.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really important.
Your doctor has to be on
you
top
could get
of
really
everything.
sick.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome that you do that. And then so you go into people's homes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you mean to tell me people in California can call you up and go, come to my home. I want
That's
an
right.
IV, and I want you to sit down next to me while you're giving me IV and change my mindset forever.
Totally. That's really what happens. That's why I enjoy it.
You're
right?
living the life.
I love it. I'm so lucky. We're all so lucky to be doing what we love, right? But then, with the IV stuff, it's so much fun because we get about 45 minutes to sometimes an hour and a half, depending on the vein.
Yeah.
And we chat about life, and it becomes this like high vibrational state of being, for those times, because we're not really sitting and talking about health, which I like that. While they're getting their IVs, we're talking about
something bigger.
And I truly enjoy that.
Yeah, and I can attest, you are the IV queen because when we were going through IVs, like you all of a sudden put on your IV hat. You were the most professional I've ever seen you in your life. You were finding veins and like the smallest people in that clinic,
Yeah.
right? All the people working there, like you were to the T, very systematic, thorough. And
Thank you.
I mean, that's you being at your most professional because you love what you do.
Isn't that funny how I automatically just like switch? I'll be like, I'm messing
Yeah,
with you.
boom.
And then I'm like, okay, we're doing
Hygienic, everything. You made sure nothing was like you took every precaution. So if you're getting an IV out there, you're going to be getting the best from you. I know that. That's for sure.
Thank you so much.
So how do people find you?
So my Instagram is dr.sam.nd.
Okay.
And then my website is safawellness.com. That's SAFA wellness.com. And you can email me through there to book something or call me.
Yeah, and you do work with Megaspore. So
Yeah.
for all the practitioners out there who are going to any Megaspore sponsored events, you'll most likely be there, right?
Yeah, Microbiome Labs. That's the
yeah, I'm
Megaspores.
sorry.
They're
Yeah,
probiotics.
Megaspores
But
are
a lot of
Microbiome
people
Labs.
refer to them as Megaspore because
Yeah.
that was like that's like the
It's their
main, that's the
telltale.
star of the
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm usually speaking for them at the naturopathic conferences, and if you have any questions about Microbiome Labs, you guys can ask
Okay.
me.
Beautiful. We'll have you back on here because I feel like we have more to talk about, okay?
So much more.
Okay.
This was so fun.
Thank you, Dr. Sam.
Thank you, Dr. G.
All right, what an incredible conversation. I told you she is special. My vibe has changed from before she was here till after, and I hope everyone else's was too. Hope you learn about some gut health, some probiotic stuff. Amazing, amazing convo. We'll have her back on. Rate, review, subscribe. Bring love to the show. We're bringing love to you all. It's all love, as Dr. Sam says.